This Choircast podcast episode is brought to you by The Wisdom of Hobbits, by me, Matthew J. DiStefano. In this hopeful yet at times poignant homage, I focus on everyone's favorite halfling friend, the Hobbit. A charming people, this Shire-based race has captivated, enthralled, and enchanted the hearts and minds of millions. And though they're not a religious society, I argue that spiritual truths, love, kindness, generosity, hope, and even compassion can be found within their familiar yet still relevant and didactic tales. Available now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or wherever you get your fine books. From Choir Publishing.
Welcome to the Unbelief Podcast, your journey, actually our journey together beyond inherited beliefs to a spirituality that works for you. I'm your host, Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. We can fix that later, right? No? Welcome to the Unbelief Podcast. I'm Jeremy, and today I am joined by Senator Chris Coons. Senator Coons has been representing the people of Delaware since 2010, and he has some unique qualifications in that he has both a JD and a Master of Divinity from Yale, which I don't know how you did this, but you got those at the same time. He serves on the Foreign Relations Committee, Appropriations, Small Business Committee, and focuses on democracy, human rights, and bipartisan problem solving. Thank you so much, Senator Coons, for being on the show.
Great to be on with you. I'll mention I also serve on Appropriations and Ethics.
Appropriations and
I'm
Ethics.
the Vice Chair of Ethics, along with Senator James Langford of Oklahoma, who is also a former pastor and a divinity school graduate. We have dramatically different policy views and political views, but one of the things that allows us to be partners in trying to shepherd this community towards a more ethical standard is that we have a shared grounding in faith.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great place to start because, right now it feels like the public discourse is just increasingly entrenched, right? It feels like for people on the outside that government seems to be the same as Facebook and news channels where people are arguing from opposite sides and are not really listening. They're just responding and bickering. And so I really would love to ask you sort of two nuances to this. First, does that feel like an accurate representation of what's happening in Congress? And then really, what can we do as everyday citizens to stop that entrenchment and to somehow come together for bipartisan discourse across the ideological divide?
Thanks for the question, Jeremy. Literally last night, I was at a dinner with 6 senators, 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and several folks from other parts of the world and from different sectors of our country. And one of them, as we were concluding what was a pretty long dinner with some very frank conversations, he said, "I'm just shocked to see this happen." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, you guys clearly all know each other and you work together and the folks participating in last night's dinner were a very broad ideological range." That happens more, or at least I'm involved in it more frequently than I think your average American would expect at all. And part of why I have participated in the weekly bipartisan prayer breakfast and regularly in the Faith and Politics Reflection Group, which is only Democrats, is that I find it really important and helpful to be grounded in my own faith and my own community and my own tradition, but also to make myself stretch, to reach, to engage with and listen to folks from very different political views who maybe read the exact same scripture that I do, but reach different conclusions about it. So what can we do around our country about this. First, put your darn phone down because
Yes.
it is just
not until you finish listening to this podcast or watching this video.
Podcast. But look, they're designed to be addictive devices.
Yeah,
I blew an hour last night before I went to bed when I was too darn tired, and I shouldn't have been doing it. I don't know how often this happens to you where I'm thinking, why am I doom scrolling?
Why am I still scrolling? Yeah.
I've got other stuff that I should be listening to. Whatever is good, whatever is just, whatever is right. Right? Focus on those things. What you feed yourself and your spirit and your head with is going to impact how you live your day. So I try every day to spend time with scripture. I'm currently in Ezekiel. I'm working my way through the entire Bible again. This will be my fourth time. Yes, just my fourth time. And I'm 62.
It's a long book.
And I'm being reminded of why this didn't work the first several times. I'm literally trying to go from the very beginning to the very end.
Oh,
the
interesting.
previous times I've been successful, it's been with an app or with a book, a daily reader that chops it up. So you have a little Old Testament, a little gospel, a little epistles, and then some Psalms, Proverbs, so that you get a little bit of everything. Making it all the way through Kings and Judges is a slog. And I'm almost there. Almost there. I'm in Ezekiel. I just finished Jeremiah, the weeping prophet. It is a genuine challenge, and it requires discipline and humility and focus. And here's what's striking to me. Every time I've gone all the way through it, or even partly through it, I confront passages, verses that I'm convinced weren't there before. I don't remember reading before.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Yeah.
So first, what would I encourage people to do? Find some moment of silence, of self-focus and engagement, and reflect on what you're doing and why. Whether you're spending time in meditation or in prayer or in reading. I'm at this end of the spectrum in terms of extroversion and engagement with the rest of the world. And any time in silence and reflection is rare for me.
Right.
For those who find it natural to spend huge amounts of time in silence or reflection, push yourself to go out and engage. But in any event, read or watch or reflect on things outside your natural frame of reference, or engage with people and issues and service outside your natural range of comfort. And make sure that you're reaching out. I had a great conversation with Roger Wicker earlier today on the floor of the Senate. I had a really good and meaningful conversation with Lindsey Graham earlier today. From my political frame of reference, these are guys with very different worldviews.
Yeah, very different.
But I've invested the time in traveling with them, or having a meal with them, or going to the gym, or spending time at prayer breakfast, that we are able to have conversations. In Roger's case, just to pick an example, or maybe James's case, we know each other's spouses. We've traveled. We know each other's families and histories. And that's important. So make the time, take the risk of getting to know and listening to people who you assume you have nothing in common with, and put down the tools of partisanship and invest the time to try and read them and meet them and hear them as people, because we actually have more in common than we think in this country.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's great advice. So let's talk a little bit about faith and politics. You know, it was interesting. I heard you mention the faith reflection group that is just Democrats.
Yes.
So, you know, I have millions of views a week on a lot of progressive spirituality and politics. And over, the people that follow me have been asking this same question. And that is that it really feels like the language of faith has been ceded by progressive and Democrats to the Christian nationalists, right? Yep. You look at a Turning Point USA stage and you see pastors, spiritual influencers, all of these people sharing the stage. And then when they look at their local rally for the senator that's getting reelected, you don't have anybody standing up there and saying like, we are, all of these faiths share some of the same DNA, right? That peace and justice. We don't have voices that are being platformed by progressive political groups in the Democratic Party. It feels like to my followers that are offering a pushback, a different message than Christian nationalism. And so what they want to know is, why is that happening? And how can we change that?
Yeah. So first, I've been a senator 16 years. I was a countywide elected for 10 years before that. So I've been elected for 26 years. And I would say that for much of the first more than decade, probably halfway into my Senate service, I was very hesitant to do too much public talking about my faith. Because bluntly, most of my staff, most of my colleagues, certainly most of the progressive world resists it, resents it, rejects it, dislikes it. I had very unpleasant experiences when I was in law school and chose to also go to divinity school with progressive classmates who said just nasty, things they would never have said to me. Right. If I had gone to them and said, hey, by the way, you don't know this about me, but it's a core part of my identity, I'm gay. Or, hey, you don't know this about me, it's a core part of my identity, I've lived in Africa. Or, hey, you don't know this about me, I'm a rock climber. I mean, if I'd said any of those things, they would have embraced me. But when I said, hey, by the way, I'm a Christian, they acted like, what is wrong with you?
Right. Yeah.
And this was at a very progressive, lefty sort of law school community. I was really struck by that, the degree of intolerance at that time. And I am encouraged that there are more of my colleagues in my party who are willing to speak openly and say, the reason I am fighting for feeding the hungry, for visiting those who are in prison, for caring the widow and the orphan, for welcoming the foreigner, the stranger, and the outcast. That is literally Torah righteousness. That is literally the first time Jesus stands up and speaks in his home synagogue in Luke 4. The Torah portion he reads is Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. And that whole menu, look, the Bible is not it is not a political document. It does not say thou shalt vote for tax cuts. It does not say thou shalt vote to fund the World Food Program. But over and over and over and over, there is this message of a preference for the poor, the marginalized, the hungry, and the outcast. And if you aren't doing that, I don't see how you make the case for doing this. So I believe that we need to have some humility and grace whenever we try to draw a line between our faith and a particular program of political action. And we need to be understanding of others who read the same passages and come to different conclusions, but we should expect of them an explanation and a rationale that is rooted in Scripture, that doesn't just seize a couple of harvested verses and say, this is what it means, but can actually make sense of it through the whole context, the connective tissue and the flow of the entire document and the message, particularly the gospel message of Jesus. I don't see how you read that and come out with, we should deliver massive tax cuts for the rich by throwing the poor off of healthcare and cutting off food. I don't get that. So I've challenged my colleagues as I've gotten more and more comfortable saying, you know what, if I don't say this, you don't know why I'm doing what I do. And to go back to my original point, I represent 1 million people. My first decade of elected office, I represented 500,000 people. There are plenty of people in my state, in my county, who are humanists, who are great people, who are ethical, but follow no particular faith and don't want to hear about mine. And there's plenty of people who are Catholic or Jewish or Muslim or mainline Protestant or evangelical who don't share my exact doctrine or background. And in general, I try to be respectful of other faith traditions and be humble in how I express my points, but yet not shy away from sharing mine. I'll tell one brief other story and then stop. So Sherrod Brown, dear friend of mine, was in this faith and politics reflection group. In fact, he hosted it for years. And this is a group that's not all Christians. We have a Buddhist, we have some sort of non-denominational folks. We have some folks who are more spiritual than specifically religious. We engage in breathing. We do some readings from a wide range of traditions. It's very inclusive.
I love that.
But it is demonstrably a prayer group about faith and politics. And I was campaigning for Sherrod. I mean, this was 10 years ago. And I'm introducing him to groups of his longtime core supporters we were in Youngstown in Cleveland. And the first time I speak, I say to this room full of his friends and supporters, I really got to know Sherrod and his heart and his faith through a prayer group. And you should have seen the room. They looked like I'd said, Sherrod Brown, whatever. I mean, eyebrow.
This bombshell. Yeah.
Yeah. And I commented on that as we were driving to the next thing. I said, you've never mentioned this, have you? Well, and so I said it again, but with a little humor the second time. And at the third event that we were at, he mentioned it. And I realized that we need to challenge each other to find a respectful, genuine way to talk to how our faith roots ground our work. Jeff Merkley and Elizabeth Warren are two of the most progressive people in my caucus. And if you have a genuine conversation with them about their childhood and their values and why they fight for economic justice and social justice, it is profoundly rooted in their faith and in how they were raised. Yet speaking to it comfortably in a progressive context is very difficult. I think if we don't stand up and speak to it, we cede this space. We abandon that space to those who would claim the gospel as their own, yet reach profoundly, in my view, antithetical to the gospel message conclusions about what that means.
Yeah. Well, we're heading into the midterms. And, when I'm talking to these followers about this issue, one of the things that comes up over and over again is that, there's been, I think it was Pew that did the research, maybe it was PRRI, but amongst people that are religious, a significant majority of them, I think it was either 60 or 70% of them, do not identify as conservatives. They're either moderate to progressive. Right. And that is a religion and faith, spirituality, all of the things that you just talked about, that are motivating people. This is this huge issue that people are silent on, and not just elected officials, right? But also when we have, like you were talking about campaigning, right? When we have somebody up on the campaign trail, if you go to one of the Christian nationalist ones, they're going to have a pastor up there spouting off all kinds of insane, hateful things. And we don't have voices on the other side that are being given the microphone, which is why I'm a queer pastor. And when I go and meet people in a queer space, if they find out that I'm a Christian, they automatically assume I'm a Christian nationalist, not because that is even a mainstream view, but because we've given the microphone to those people and just been silent. So where do we go? Like, how do we get from, these are really important, just talking politics, to having a progressive voices, elected officials and non-elected officials that are being given microphones to say the things that are the exact opposite, right? Like the exact opposite of what Pete Hegseth is saying, right? I don't have time for him in any of the stuff that he is saying, but I don't see other people on the news or wherever being given the opportunity to show something different. So how do we get from here to there?
That's why I'm glad to be on with you today. And I appreciate what you're doing. For tens of millions of Americans, that sentence, I'm a queer pastor, just doesn't compute. They don't see how that's possible.
They remind me of that every day in the comments.
Yet many of the long established mainline Protestant churches are not just queer affirming or welcoming. They believe that love thy neighbor, no exceptions, includes the LGBT community. If you walk in the front of many of the mainline churches in my community, Episcopal, Methodist, Lutheran, Presbyterian, there will be a sign that says, "You are loved, you are welcome."
Yeah.
That'll have the pride flag, and not just 1 month of a year.
Right. Yeah.
But that, for us, that has to be more than just a brief proclamation. We have to do the work. Because starting back with the moral majority in the 1980s and Jerry Falwell, there has been a serious, persistent move to say religion is about sexuality, defining and controlling sexuality, and abortion and gay marriage or gay rights are the two issues that define Christianity in the minds of tens of millions.
Yeah.
Now, I respect and understand friends of mine, people I've met who had really hard, really tragic, or really oppressive experiences in, for example, the Catholic Church or in other mainline Protestant churches, and who say,
I have those same experiences.
You can say a couple of nice things, Chris, but that's what I experienced. Listen to Pope Leo. Pope Leo is our first American Pope. And his recent comments about how sexuality and drawing lines around sexuality and procreation should not define the entirety of the gospel as lived in the world. Now, he's not changing Catholic doctrine, which on a number of these issues remains quite exclusive. But between Pope Francis and his comment, "Who am I to judge?" and Pope Leo and some of the things he's been saying and doing to put the emphasis of his ministry on the human condition, on care for the refugee, on economic inequality, on things that violate the human spirit. There's a change from Pope Benedict in emphasis.
Yeah, absolutely.
A. B, it is possible to read the Gospels and read the Bible and come to the conclusion that out of all the things that we are urged and challenged to put in the front of our mind, a focus on abortion and gay marriage is nowhere. Nowhere if you have a red letter Bible that focuses on what did Jesus say and do, that's not in there. Yes, you can find passages in Deuteronomy and Galatians. You can find things and pull them out and say this verse. Absolutely, you can. You can also find justifications for slavery. Right. You can also find justifications, for a lot of other things.
For all kinds of horrible things, because these cultures existed thousands of years ago. None of that is surprising. Yeah.
So it is a challenge. My answer to you, Jeremy, is we have to do the work. We have to show up. We have to assert a different understanding of what love thy neighbor means. And at the very least, we have to say, it doesn't mean hate. It doesn't mean exclusion. It doesn't mean mockery. It doesn't mean narrowing people's range of freedom. And being people of faith in a democracy founded on the free exercise of religion. Right. And more than anything, founded on a freedom to find and be yourself, certainly does not mean, in combination, standing for hate.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to offer you, if you ever have a platform where you can give a voice to a progressive spiritual person, I've got the names and phone numbers of so many wonderful progressive spiritual influencers. You just let me know. But I really want to do a hard turn because you've done some really important work around China and the sort of economic and security issues around China and working on that. And so I'd love to shift your brain into the China gear and ask you, I mean, as you see it, what are the top couple of issues that you feel like Americans need to be thinking about and paying attention to and talking to their representatives about when it comes to China in regards to the economy and security?
So China is our peer competitor. They have made an astonishing transformation in their nation over the last couple of decades. They've elevated hundreds of millions of people out of abject poverty and are today really the manufacturing powerhouse of the world, a remarkably innovative country that is delivering huge results for their people. That bears repeating. They have also accomplished that largely by repressing individual liberties, by making it nearly impossible for their own people to experience creativity and the internet and to decide for themselves what they think, and through the repression of the people of Hong Kong, of the people of Tibet, of the people of Xinjiang. And in a Western understanding of human rights, they have profoundly violated the human rights that are at the very core of a free and open society where individuals get to decide how they are going to worship, how they are going to live, and how they are going to speak. So we have fundamentally different views of human society and of the role of the individual in that society. They have achieved great things from a communist perspective in terms of elevating the quality of life and the prowess of their nation. But they have done it at the cost of an enormous sacrifice of individuals and individual freedoms. So the consequences for that, in my view, are that we are in a race for economic prominence in this century, in this world. They are doing everything they can as a state-controlled society to leap ahead of us in artificial intelligence and quantum computing and biosecurity. And some of the things they are doing are genuinely hostile to our interests. They see us as constraining them and preventing them from flourishing, and we see them as fundamentally hostile to us, whether at the UN or in the Western Pacific or globally. So whether it's access to chips that'll power AI, whether it's surveillance and control of their own people, but the rest of the world, or it's competing with us for influence in global institutions like the UN, we are in a very intense and bitter rivalry with the People's Republic of China.
One quick question. I'm very much passionate about the environment. I'm actually going to be going out to Indiana a group is bringing us out to talk with farmers and help them do content to raise all the important issues around agriculture and creation care. But the thing that I'm interested from you is one of the things that you say is that climate action can create American jobs. How is that the case? Because a lot of people, that is not the narrative that is being pushed by, big oil companies and coal and all of that. So how can climate action create American jobs?
It's not a zero-sum game. And first, if you come at this question from a faith perspective and you look at our world as created and not just there for us to take whatever resources from however long we can in whatever ways we want. If you view yourself as a steward of creation, you look at this question differently. But just from the raw economic question, how does it create more jobs? Bluntly, I have an aunt and uncle in Iowa. First time I went to Iowa in 1988, I'm going back and forth across the state for Joe Biden. Most recent time I was there, stunning how many wind farms there are. And if you talk to rural farmers, it provides a steady and stable source of income that can complement the income that they get from farming. And it is possible for whether it's in sustainable biofuels or it's in renewable power generation to have that complement income sources from more traditional farming or agriculture. Long-term regenerative agriculture, which is a different set of practices, can generate as much revenue as more traditional crop agriculture and have benefits for the climate as well. So I would be happy to come back and talk about this at much greater length.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's great arguments for how climate action can also, done right, create meaningful jobs and job opportunities for Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're right across the river from each other. So maybe next time we'll get to do this in person. But thank you so much, Senator Coons, for being so generous with your time. I really appreciate it.
Great to be with you. Look forward to our next conversation.
That's it. That's the podcast. Shout out to the Choir Network, to Patheos, to Matthew and Keith, who make everything happen. Now, get out of here. Go do something to make the world a better place. Okay? We'll see you next time.